Good morning. Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Okay, Markia, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second. I didn't give you any warning at all, but I think you can handle this. Why don't you tell us what you said in the session earlier about uh, what you're willing or able to do without help, if you will, and then what did you say? What happens when you got a trainer? Talk to me about that. Talk to everyone about that.
Yeah, so the discussion was about, I guess, my goals, and one of my goals was to fitness. And so I got a personal trainer just because I wasn't really as committed working from home. And I just gave an example, like it's raining today, and I probably wouldn't have went to my basement to get on my bike and work out, even though I paid for the bike. But I have a trainer, and so my mind instantly, once my alarm goes off at 4:45, I'm getting up to get to the gym by 5:30, and so I made that commitment to go to the gym every morning by 5:30, so that I can, become more healthier or fit.
So thank you. Let me summarize. She was willing to go through the effort of buying the bike, get it into her house, right, and ride it. But what she realized is that she would be performing at a higher level and more frequently with more training and instruction and accountability. Is that right?
Correct.
That's the power of coaching, you guys. That's the power of coaching. It's not for new people only. It's for people that know that if they were pushed a little bit more, the difference in their performance would be astronomical. Okay. Now, let me put one other person on the spot really fast, which is I just want to just recognize one person in particular that is joining us for the first time in 2021 in PC, who is Heather Hare. Heather, we'll do this. We'll do a whole kind of intro diatribe thing at some point in the future. But Heather has recommitted to coaching, and she is our newest coaching member and member of PC2. She's a member of our ALC. And I just wanted to ask you if you could share for just a moment or two. And you got a great business, right? You know how to sell homes, right? You know how to deal with objections. You know you got it all together. What's the deal? What do you want coaching for?
Because I can do everything better and at a higher level. And thank you for that, by the way. And I think it's silly for anyone to think that they do not need a coach. Actors have coaches, athletes have coaches. Anytime you want to excel and get over a hump of where you are, you should reach out to someone who knows what they're doing and can coach you to do the same.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm not just putting you on for like a commercial. You guys are already in coaching. I just want you to hear that, again, coaching is not just for like, let me get a coach to like figure out this particular issue that I'm dealing with. That's a training issue most likely, right? Coaching is about walking side by side with you as you're going on your journey, right? So Heather's figured out like how to sell 5 homes, how to sell 15 homes, how to sell 20 homes. Now she's at a different spot in her career where she's trying to, essentially, I'll put some words in your mouth for a second, right? We're probably right on the brink of adding some leverage, right? We're right on the brink of trying to figure out like who her ideal client is, right? And kind of maybe move into a little bit of a different niche, right? And with that comes a lot of questions and a lot of challenges, right? So don't think that asking questions is a sign of weakness. Asking questions is a sign of intelligence, okay? I never understood the whole like, men don't ask for directions thing. I ask for directions all the time. I don't want to waste time getting lost. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Make sense?
And you can get lost in your career too if you don't ask the right questions.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
In streets.
The vast majority of people are lost in their career.
Yeah.
And a good indication of that is they're spending time on the wrong stuff.
Right.
If you're spending time on the wrong stuff, you're lost. Right? Does that make sense?
You realize how valuable your time is. You want to spend less time doing the wrong thing and being lost.
That's right, because we all have lives outside of real estate that we want to maximize also, right?
Yes.
All right, enough of my soapbox. Let's start talking about listing presentations. Everyone excited? Okay, let's do just a tiny bit of setting the stage here. Okay, I'm going to refer to something that we'll call the pre-listing package. The pre-listing package is a document which is basically, we won't go through the whole thing today, but this is basically the document, and it is more or less a it's almost like a commercial for you and Keller Williams and your numbers and your company and all these kind of things. That the goal is to um, uh, the goal is to essentially pre-sell yourself. Okay, so I'm going to post an example of a pre-listing package in the announcements page right now. And what this does is it kind of illustrates, right, a little bit about the process, a little bit about some of the most common terms. It might have a slide or two about the market stats, right? A little bit about your marketing presentation. It probably includes some testimonials. And by the way, if you're new to real estate, your testimonials are things like, hey, like Michael, he's not been in real estate a ton of time, right? But if he's worked for other individuals or organizations and they want to talk about Michael's, professionalism or his sense of urgency or his, patience or his extra hard work, those values and those characteristics transfer to any business, right? So if you've got any type of LinkedIn recommendations or something like that, those can still be used as well. Okay, so we use the pre-listing package for two primary reasons. Really three primary reasons. Number one, we're testing the consumer to see if they listen to what you ask them to do. Okay. Number two is you're basically cutting down what could be a 3-hour listing presentation to something that's more like 45 minutes. Okay. Because you don't have to talk about all this stuff because they've already reviewed it. And thirdly, you're separating yourself from the crowd, because I will tell you right now, maybe 1% of real estate agents actually do this. Maybe. Okay. Meaning if I'm a seller and I'm going to interview, let's say, 3 agents, and one of them sends me this really nice, colorful packet that's super organized, that walks me through the process and lets me know how great they are and how comfortable this process is going to be for me. And the other 2, one's late and one doesn't confirm the appointment. Who do you think's got the leg up already? Right? So your interview, if you will, starts the minute you get on the telephone with them. Does that make sense? You are always on stage. You are always communicating. Even when you're not communicating, you're communicating. Does that make sense? Okay, so we've done a couple of videos on the pre-listing package. In the meantime, I've put that into our chat. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is preparation. Okay, so we want to make sure that we are prepared with sales data. Okay, so what I recommend is kind of following the same mindset of what would I, if I was a buyer potentially of this subject home, what other properties would I be considering, right? So let's look at maybe school districts. Let's look at, a radius search, something like that, right? If it's, how do I want to say this and be appropriate? Like I was helping somebody with comps the other day, and it was an area where, let's just say, it's not, people don't choose to live in that area for the school districts. Does that make sense? Right? We all know there's areas that people like gravitate to because the schools have a wonderful reputation. And then there's some areas that the schools aren't the reason why people move there. It's something else, right? They want to walk to work, or, they want to, whatever it may be. It's close to amenities or something like that. But the schools is not necessarily what draws them there. If the schools is not really necessarily what draws them there, then you maybe shouldn't use school districts as a criteria. right? You might be more likely to use neighborhood or radius search or something like that. So you want to have a really, really good understanding of what are the properties that this buyer might consider, and that's the kind of the lens in which you should be looking at the comps through. So this is what I would attempt to do if at all possible. Sometimes this can be challenging, but this is what I would do if at all possible. I would look for at least 3 and probably no more than 5 actives, pendings, and sales. Okay. Active, pending, sales. And pendings, by the way, are active under contract. That is generally the classification when the deal is under contract, yet it's still in the due diligence period, right? Pending, which generally means that the due diligence period is over and you're just on your way to closing. Those are the 2 classifications of that. However, most realtors don't know what the hell they're doing, and so those are oftentimes not accurate, okay? But you guys are of a whole different breed, right? Okay, so that's the stage, okay? So by the time that the appointment happens, a couple of things have already taken place. Number 1 is I have gone through what I would call the pre-qualification script with the consumer, okay? Now, let me show you what that is. I pulled that up. I will post that here in just a second. And we're going to review it during the listing presentation, so we won't go through it right this second. We'll go through it here in a moment, okay? But we want to make sure that we know exactly how to best prepare for that meeting. So there's a set of questions that either when we're confirming the appointment or if appropriate while we're setting the appointment, we want to just pull them out. So before, so that I can help myself prepare properly for the meeting, do you mind if I ask you a couple of questions, right? And of course they're going to say yes. And just a side note, if the other agents that they're interviewing are not asking these types of questions, right? Number 1, what you're subconsciously saying to the seller is they're not prepared, right? Or they're going to have a hard time comparing or outperforming you from preparation standpoint because you can ask this stuff. Does that make sense? Okay, so we've confirmed the appointment. We've asked the pre-qualification questions. We show up at the door. Okay, now I'll tell you this: 100 different realtors are going to have 100 different listing presentations. So I'm not sitting here telling you this is the only way to do it, but I will talk about some of the psychology behind some of the stuff that I'll say. Okay, so first thing is we knock on the door, right? Dress nicely, right? We're not showing up in our workout outfit or anything like that. This is a job interview. You should be treated as such, right? Knock on the door. Hey, we had a 4 o'clock appointment. It's 4 o'clock. May I come in? Right? You're letting them know you're on time. Most realtors are perpetually late. Perpetually is not the right word there, is it? They're always late. Okay. So you ask the next thing. People have different opinions on this, but I don't particularly want to be taken around the house by them, because as they take you around the house, basically what they're showing you is all the things they've spent money on. And the price that they want for the home is subconsciously going up little by little. Hey, oh yeah, we replaced that window. Oh, we switched out the knobs there. Oh, we stripped the wallpaper and painted. Oh gosh, we spent $400 on that light fixture, right? It's like cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. And it takes forever. Okay, so what I'd like to do is just take a quick look around the house so that I can see the home from the eyes of the buyer and take a couple of notes, and then we'll sit down at the kitchen table and chat a little bit about your goals. Does that sound okay? Yes, okay, great. So I take a look around the home, I'm taking notes. I'm not necessarily, like filling out the listing paperwork. I'm not necessarily looking for where the attic stairs are or, these kind of things. I'm just kind of getting a feel for, does this person keep a relatively organized home? Are there a lot of things that have to happen in order to get it ready for photos and listing, right? What level of update do they have? I'm also looking for clues on what their personality profile might be, right? So do they have and these are generalizations here, but if they've got like a lot of color in their home, they generally are a little bit more like, their personalities are a little bit bigger, if you will. right? They're going to want to be talkative. They want to have fun. I might try to smile a little bit more than I normally would, right? Are their clothes all organized in a certain way? Like they got the white shirts and then the off-white shirts and then the, beige shirts and a little darker beige shirts. Is everything really, really organized? If so, you better pull out the stats because they want to see the stats, right? Are there like trophies and certificates and all these kind of things on, are you talking about the colorful stuff, Heather?
Well, no, all my closets completely organized by color, and my walls are very, very muted, but I have a really big personality.
So again, it doesn't work on everybody, but what I would notice from your color organization is you want to be shown the data, right?
Yeah.
You're going to be making a decision that is not rooted entirely in emotion. You're going to be making a decision that has it's a data-driven decision, right?
Yes.
So I want to be prepared for that, right? If, for example, they got a bunch of hole-in-one trophies and deer heads on the wall and all this kind of stuff, let me tell you something. I'm not here to tell you that's good or bad. I'm just telling you it's on the wall because they want to talk about it. Is that fair? So you basically should be looking for things around the home that you might be able to have a conversation with so that you can more quickly build rapport. Does anyone have any questions on that? Does that make sense? Have you ever thought about it that way? Pam, I
Yes,
know you.
it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Okay, great. So now we're back at the kitchen table, right? One thing that I want to make sure that you guys we're going to input a number of psychology stuff here. Ideally, I don't want to sit on the opposite side of the table as them if I can avoid it, right? So if it's like a square table, I want to sit, the one person here and me here or something like that. Like I don't want them to be here and I'm over here, right? Because we want to create the understanding that we're on the same team. I'm not over here and you're over there and we're like fighting over how we're going to market it, what it's going to be priced at, and all these things. We're on the same team here. Make sense? Okay. If they offer you something, I would take it, right? If they offer you a glass of water, if they offer you a glass of wine, just you don't want to start saying no to them immediately. Does that make sense? I mean, I've been in listing presentations where like I probably should have called Uber on the way home, right? Because they just want to have fun, and I want to be polite. Make sense? Got the listing, by the way. Okay. All right. So, Mr. Seller, I have a great deal of respect for the investment of your time today. And I know there's many, many real estate agents that you could be meeting with. And I just first wanted to share my gratitude with you for the opportunity to be here, right? In fact, I only have 3 goals for our meeting today. Number 1, we're going to review your motivation to sell this house now, and we're going to agree on a price that will cause it to sell. We are going to take a moment and I'll answer any questions that you may have. Okay. And we'll decide tonight whether you want to work with me, and I'll decide whether I'd like to take your listing. Okay. Generally, they just let that go. But sometimes they'll fight you back on that and say, whoa, under what circumstances would you not take my listing? Right? Why would you not take my listing? That means you probably have a high I that you're talking to, because high I's want to be friends, and you just told them that you might not be friends. Does that make sense? So as we told you before, again, we could help you learn how to sell homes in like a week, if that. The rest is the psychology of dealing with people. Okay, this is the psychology of dealing with people. Okay, so you might say, well, it doesn't happen very often, but sometimes a seller will not be able or willing to price their home at a price that I believe will cause them to be successful, or they might want might want me to spend money advertising a home in a way that I know.
Joshua, you drinking OJ?
Does that make sense? Okay, great, fair enough. So I have 3 critical questions for you. Do you really want to sell your house? Okay, that's an embedded command. Slight pause before I said sell your home, a little bit of a downswing. Sell your home. I'm speaking directly to their subconscious. Okay, are you willing to price your home to sell? Price your home to sell, price your home to sell. That's what's happening here. Okay, or do you want it to sit on the market? I know that's a little off for this market perhaps, but there still are 11% of homes that are not selling. Okay, and do you want me to sell it for you? Right? And they say, yeah, I loved your pre-listing package. I think you're the right guy. Then you pull out the listing paperwork, you get it signed, and you move on. You do not necessarily have to go through 15 different pages of stuff. When you have the sale, take the sale. Make sense? Okay. More than likely, they'll say, hey, you just got here. I don't know if I want to work with you or not. Say, wonderful. I get it. By the way, I want to go through some of the most important topics, in my opinion. And your needs come first. It's all about you. Okay. So let's say, Donna, can you play with me for a minute? Okay. So I want you to visualize, Donna, your dream scenario of selling this property.
Okay.
Right? I didn't say your home, because now it is something that they own. They don't want to own this thing anymore. So I don't want to remind them that it's home, if you will. You guys have heard that phrase, like people buy a home and they sell a house. Have you ever heard that? Right? Okay. So visualize your dream scenario of selling this home or selling this house or selling this property. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, Bill, what I visualize is that we'll put it on the market and we'll have lots of people come and see it, and we'll get a really great offer over the asking price within a week, and we'll have smooth sailing to closing, and I can take my check and move on. That's what I visualize as my dream scenario for selling this house.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So
You're welcome.
what's the one thing that has to happen, Donna, to make that dream a reality for you?
Well, I think that you have to market it so that we can get people here. You know, I want people to know about my home.
Okay, great. And is there any specific marketing that you want to see that's really important to you?
Well, I see that my neighbors had an open house recently, and there were cars lined up and down the street. So I think maybe an open house would be great. Probably the first weekend that it's on the market. I'd like to see that. If you can make that special, that would be nice to
Wonderful.
attract.
We do open houses. We do that for many of our clients. When you said you can make it special, did you have something in mind? We try to make it special for everyone, but I want to make sure whatever special means to you, we want to make sure that happens. So what does special mean to you?
Yeah, well, I would like to see, you know, like a welcoming environment when you have this open house, so that people feel comfortable when they walk in. Maybe you could put up some special feature cards to make sure that people know about the things in my home that maybe are not visible, you know, to the eye when they first walk in. I would like you to really emphasize that we have a great elementary school around the corner, and that we have a walking trail. So people may not know that, but we're a very family-friendly community. And, you know, I would like for you to emphasize that during the open house. Maybe you could have some kind of flyer or notebook laid out. And then, you know, if you maybe could have some snacks and drinks, and just make people feel welcome when they come in. Maybe have more than one person doing the open house, so that, you know, you can chat with them, and no one's just kind of waiting around to chat with you. They have someone else to talk to. Just that sort of thing, Bill. Maybe a sign out front that says open house with some balloons on it, and make sure you put signs out on the intersection, that sort of thing. You know, what I saw the other agent doing for my neighbor.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all those details. Okay, so basically she has told me exactly how to serve her. Has she not? And now it's up to me to either do what she asked me to do, assuming it's reasonable, which is everything she said seems reasonable to me, or I can fail at that. The other thing, which I want you guys to really be able to pick up on, 10 minutes or 5 minutes into the meeting, she's already talking about we, us, you. She's already using language that talks about how we're a team. Did you guys pick up on that? Now you want to do that too, but you're doing that with intentionality. She is just doing that because that's what her brain is, that her brain is telling her to use those words, which is a good sign. You want to pick up on that. Does that make sense? Okay, beautiful. So outside of that specific marketing, Donna, is there anything else that you would consider that you'd like your agent, Roy G. Biv? Isn't that like the colors in the rainbow or something? What's that got to do with this?
That's the
Just in response to the text
Oh,
comments.
sorry.
Sorry.
That's okay. I was like, what in the world is that? Okay. So Donna, outside of the marketing that you just mentioned, is there anything else that is critical that happens in the listing process for you?
Yeah, I want to make sure that you communicate with me. I want to know what's going on. You know, I don't want to be in the dark. If we're not getting a lot of interest, I want to know that so that maybe we can change our strategy. But yeah, I want communication. That's important to me.
So she's telling me she's willing to change the strategy if things aren't working. I need to pick up on that too. Okay. Now, Donna, just so I'm perfectly clear, you know, great communication means different things to different people. So what would you consider to be keeping you in the loop? Does that mean like a call a week, a call every other week, a call every day? What's reasonable? And by the way, is calling the most appropriate way to communicate with you?
Yeah, I think a call once a week, maybe at whatever you think would be appropriate, either Friday or Sunday, maybe Sunday after the open houses. But yeah, once a week, you can fill me in on what you've been doing during the week to get my home sold.
Beautiful.
And
so one message per week. Obviously, we'll call if there's something that's more urgent or that needs to be discussed.
right.
You know, some type of adjustment that we need to make, popping that into her brain, right? Might need to come up with that, may need to refer to that later, right? But one time a week to give you the update by telephone is exactly what you're looking for. Is that right?
Yeah, and you know, if there's something quick you just want to communicate to me, you can send me a text because I work all week and I'm not always available during the day by phone. So just drop me a text. That would be fine. But a weekly phone call, just kind of summarizing everything would be good.
Okay, great. I'd be more than happy to do that for you. More than happy to do that. This is being recorded, guys, so you can watch it over and over again, okay? Okay, so let me ask you another quick question.
Sure.
What do you need to see or hear from the agent that you'll be interviewing in order to help you make the most appropriate decision for you and your family?
Well, Bill, I want to make sure that you have my family's best interests at heart. You know, we want to try and get the most money that we can get from this home because we are moving on out of state. We're buying another home and we just want to have as much as we can get. We've done some updates. You know, we put a lot of money into the home over the years and we'd really like to recoup some of that. So just want to make sure.
You've done a beautiful job with the home. And I know we talked about this briefly the other day, but when you move to Seattle, if you're interested, I can introduce you to a local expert in the area of Seattle that you're looking at. If you don't already have a relationship with somebody, that way you don't have to, you know, log onto the Google and take your chances of finding a good one or a bad one. I'll help you find a good one. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that sounds great. We're going to be staying with family for a little while until we find a place, and I don't have an agent yet, so that would be awesome. Thank you.
Perfect. So now we've tied our relationship to something beyond just this conversation. Make sense? More and more commitment. Got me? Okay, great. Thank you, Donna. Thank you so much for sharing all that information. I've taken great notes here, and we're going to make sure we take care of you and your family. Make sure that the best interest of your family will be represented. I'm using some of her words. Again, lots of psychology here. Okay, she says something, she says best interest. I want to use that phrase later on. Make sure she knows I'm listening. And it creates an additional rapport that's hard to kind of put your fingers on, but it's happening. Okay. Okay, so Mrs. Patrick, I had an opportunity to speak with you and your husband earlier, and I asked a couple of questions to help me better prepare for this evening. May I review those questions now, and so that I can make certain that I thoroughly understand your circumstances to sell your house, and make sure that we're on the same page. Would that be okay?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. So just for the sake of time, I'll read the questions, but you don't have to answer them. Is that cool? So do you plan on interviewing more than one agent for the job of selling your home? Where are you moving to? Or you might say like, and you said on Tuesday that you were moving to Chicago. Is that right? Right. So obviously make sure that the slight tweaks to the phraseology if needed, right? And you said you needed to be there by August. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. If I were to sell your home in the next 30 days, would that pose a problem for you? Okay. What happens if your home does not sell? What would you like to list your home for realistically? Or you might say, you said a couple of days ago that you might like to list the home for $350. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. So do you have a price that you won't go below? How much do you owe on the property? Or you would say, you said that you owe $250 on the home. Is that correct? Right. So you don't want to ask the questions again, just to make sure we're clear on that. You want to recite the answer and then confirm that that's the answer. Okay. Have you thought, and you said that you've never thought about selling your home. You wouldn't dare do that. You know how important a realtor is, right? Okay. You mentioned that you're going to Seattle and in a year after living with some relatives, you'll probably purchase there. Is that correct? Yes. Do you need the money from this house in order to buy the next home? Right. Okay. You mentioned I had asked you on a scale of 1 to 10 how you would rank your home, and you told me it was an 8. And then I asked you what would make it a 10, and you said if you updated all the lighting and you kind of did all those landscaping chores that just haven't gotten to the top of the list. Is that right? Right. So basically what they're saying is my home's not a 10, and probably the feedback I'm going to get is the following things. And it came out of their mouth. Does that make sense? Right. So if you say, would you rank it a 10, or what would you rank it? And they say it's a 7, say, what would make it a 10? Right. And they're like, well, if this power tower wasn't here, and if the driveway wasn't like this, and if the school district wasn't terrible, blah, 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 blah. Basically, they're giving you the feedback that you're likely to get. Does that make sense? But because it came from them, it's totally different. Y'all follow that? Okay. Is there anything else positive or negative about the home that you believe could affect its price? What you're telling them is positive and negative things about their home affect the price. Does that make sense? Okay. Did you have an opportunity to review the packet that I sent? And did you have any specific questions about that? More than likely, they're going to say, looks like you do a lot of great marketing. No, they're not going to say, can you spend the next 45 minutes explaining your marketing package? And that will save you time. Follow that, guys? Okay. Next thing, so we've done with the pre-qualification. We're going to move over to okay, great. So my job or my goal is to make that happen for you, right? We're going to sell this home. They've defined their goals. They've said why it's important, etc. Now I might choose to use Donna's words again and say, it is my top priority. I want to make sure that I have you and your family's best interest at heart. My job and my goal is to get you to Seattle by August with the most number of dollars in your pocket and make it nice and simple for you, just like you asked for. Would that be okay? Right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Y'all see what I've done here? All this language is around us, we. I haven't bragged about myself a single time yet. Make sense? Has nothing to do with me. It's got everything to do with them. Make sense? Okay, now, so let's take a moment and let's learn a little bit about the marketplace. Can I show you a couple things regarding the marketplace?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen really quickly. One sec. Okay, so depending on how this conversation has gone, will tell me like basically how much of this or how much time I want to spend on this. But there's a couple of slides that I just want to kind of quickly show you guys to help you understand the things that I think are most relevant to the seller right now. Okay, so Donna appears to already kind of know what's going on in the market because she's like, I want multiple offers within a week, right? And again, this is a topic we've mentioned a few times with respect to for sale by owners, but it's important to say it here too, I believe, which is my job is not to get you the offer. Okay, I mean, in part, yes, it is, but my main job is to make certain that you don't take any risks that you don't need to take and that you capitalize on the best offer. Make sense? Okay, so here are a couple of slides that I think are really important. Here's one from MMO. Okay, this was emailed out a couple weeks ago, and I've posted it. Actually, I did not post this. I'll post this real fast in the chat. Okay. What I want to do is find their price range, right? So let's say it's a $375,000 property. I'm going to go to this line here, and what I'm specifically looking for is the median number of days on the market. This is what this, I'm sorry, slide number 2. This is what I'm looking for. I want to go here, and if the median number of days when there's no price reduction is 9, and the home sells for 101% of listing price as a median, in a median number of 9 days, if there's no need for a price reduction. However, if there is a need for a price reduction, okay, then you're going to sell generally for 95% of the original list price and 74 days on the market as a median number. Is that clear? Do you have any questions on that? So basically, we're warning them to say, don't mess up the price. The price is going to dictate everything. So here's what happens if you price it wrong, and here's what happens if you price it correctly. Does that make sense, Donna?
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay, here's a couple of other slides that I'd like to share with you. Okay, I sent a something called Chartmasters Listing Fave on the chat earlier, and it basically takes an 84-page Chartmasters presentation. And I'm not saying the other slides are unimportant. I'm just saying these are the best ones, in my opinion, for listings when you're talking to a seller. Okay, especially if you're getting kind of the feeling that brand is important to them. Like they keep talking about Remax or Coldwell Banker or Ansley or KW or whatever. They just seem to be kind of brand conscious, right? For whatever reason. We all know the brand has nothing to do with anything, especially from a consumer standpoint. But if that's important to them, hey, bring it up. We are number 1, right? We have more market share of closed transactions.
Bill, that's blank. Is there supposed to be something there?
It's blank.
Am I the only one seeing a blank box?
I see a gray. All I see is gray.
Huh. All right, let's see if I can. Behavioral flexibility. Okay, see that? I posted it in the chat. So this shows you that the market share of closed transactions for Keller Williams is 19.8% of the market. And if you add up, that's 8.7. If you add up the next 5 brokers, they still don't equal us together. Okay, so there's no question that we are the market leader in Metro Atlanta. Okay, there are other companies out there that talk about being number 1, and that's because they all are technically the same in owner group, if you will. Okay. Keller Williams, all the offices are individually owned and operated. So they compare, like Metro Brokers, for example, which has 30 offices that are all technically the same brokerage, to Keller Williams Realty Consultants. They've got 2,500 agents. We have 370. Does that make sense? So
Can I ask, does everyone else see it in the chat? Because I don't. Is it in the chat?
it's in the announcements chat. Do you see that picture?
It is in the chat.
It's in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay. It also, if you look up the, what is it? Chartmasters listings fave, there's 6 or 7 slides. You can just open that. Okay. There's a slide next on, actually, let me try to do it that way and see if that
Where do you look that up? Chartmaster listing faves, where's that?
that's something I posted in.
Your screen's back now.
Yeah,
Huh. Okay. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Give me 2 seconds.
where'd you post it? I'm sorry, Bill.
In the announcements chat.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. Got it figured out.
Yeah, got it.
All right. So if they talk about these ideas of like, let me start high and then lower the price, here's some good slides for that. Okay. So again, you don't have to present every single slide to them if it's not applicable to the way they're behaving, but this is a common idea, right? Oh, well, let's test it at this number and then come down. Well, I've got some reservations about that. Can I share them with you? Right? Many people think that's a great idea. What I've found is that oftentimes the following happens, and here's the data to support that conclusion. What do you think? Right? You're not making them wrong. You're sharing a different perspective and asking them how they're receiving that information. Make sense? So the activity drops drastically after the first couple weeks on the market, right? And the closest to asking price in the first week is first weeks on the market, right? So you can look at this slide. This is a little bit more detail with respect to price range on what happens if you do not need a price reduction versus if you need one. Days on the market and percentage of list price to sales price, right? And oftentimes percentages are not as helpful as you might think. So for example, if Donna, we said, has a $375,000 home, that's a 5.5% difference if she prices it correctly versus not prices it correctly. So in that scenario, 5% of 375 is almost $20,000. So Donna, do you see that we really have $20,000 at stake potentially by getting the price correct?
I see
So
that.
it's really important that you work with an agent that has a lot of experience in doing this, right?
Mhm.
Something of that nature, right? And then you might, if you got good rapport, I might say like, what are you going to do with that 20 grand? Right? Get them smile a little bit. Okay.
So are you gonna go over what you say to them? Like if they ask, well, Bill, how are we gonna be sure that you price it or we price it correctly?
Well, I'm a lot less concerned about underpricing it and more concerned about overpricing it, because what'll happen, let's say the home is worth 400 and we price it for 390, right? We'll put it out there for 390 and we'll get absolutely clobbered. And when we ask for people's highest and best offers, they'll go above the list price, right? And we see that that actually happens in your price range 57.8% of the time. So understand that if we get a price that is above list price, it's not necessarily an indication that we incorrectly priced it. We had to price it at a certain number to get that type of activity and that type of response. So our job, we don't actually set the price. We don't know what the market is willing to pay for this. We have a rough idea based on, you know, what previous buyers and appraisers have signed off on, but we need to put a price that's appropriate and then let the highest bidder tell us what it's really worth. Okay, so I'm far more concerned about being outside of what the price should be, right? So if we price a $400,000 home at 450, then the wrong people are looking at it, right? Because the people that are looking for $500,000 houses will see your 450 house and it'll be small and not updated. But if it's priced at 400, the people that are looking from 350 to 400 will look at it and it'll be the biggest, most updated, most beautiful house on their list. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. So I'm prepared with saying, hey, I don't want them to think that if we get a price beyond the list price that I did a bad job. Follow that? And you can kind of walk them through this slide. This is probably my favorite slide of all of Chartmasters here, which is 13% of homes will fail to sell. That is because it's overpriced, okay? The other 87 will sell. 21 of them is they needed a price reduction in order to sell. This is not quite as impactful as it used to be 10 years ago when we looked at this. But this walks you through the difference between getting seven days on the market at 100% and 93 days on the market at 93.3%. Donna, which would you prefer? Would you prefer to make your bed and clean the kitchen 7 times before your home goes under contract? Or would you rather do it 93 times?
Well, I've already told you, Bill, I want this house sold as quickly as possible. So of course, the 7 days.
Great. So we're going to have to agree on a price that will cause us our homes to sell. Yes?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I can get the most that I can get for it.
Of course. I've got your best interest at hand, remember? And we're going to make a joint decision. We're going to look at this data together and decide what we believe together is the most appropriate choice. So we've looked at some sales. That's the overall general market. Then I would pull out the individual comparables, right? Hey, this is a home that we're going to be competing against. What do you think about this one? Hey, this is a home that we're going to be competing against. What do you think about that one? Here's a sale that happened that any buyer that considers your home is going to be familiar with. What do you think about that one? Right, we're going through the actives, the pendings, the closings. Okay, so based on all of these comparable cells, this one priced at this one priced at this one priced at this, where do you feel like we should be pricing your home so that it's positioned on the market to outperform any and all of these properties? You come up with a price. Let's just say you're realistic and I agree with you. Wonderful. So, Mrs. Patrick, all we need to do now is sign the contract so you can get to Seattle by August. Ready to get started?
Yep, ready to go.
Okay, so we didn't cover a lot of objections and these kind of things, but you want to make sure that let's kind of summarize a couple important points here. The first is you got to prep like crazy, right? You're not going to be able to price a home correctly unless you're familiar with the area or you get immediately familiar with the area, right? So if you're about to stick a home on the market, let's say Michael just listed a home in East Cobb. I'm not going to ask you if you did this or not, but I'm assuming that you went into some of the competition and you took notes and you said, hey, this home's nicer than my listing, so therefore it should be higher priced, right? Or, hey, this home is 600 square feet smaller. It doesn't have all the rooms finished in the basement and the kitchen is not as updated as mine and it's listed for here, so we should be higher than that, right? So you're constantly kind of creating and refining that range of where the home should be priced at. Okay. Basically the entire time, I haven't spoken a word about how awesome I am. Okay. They're seeing how awesome I am based on the way I ask questions and the psychology involved in continuing to build that rapport. Okay. So by the way, many of us have come from other careers. All of us, I guess, have come from other careers where the same skills that I'm discussing here about building rapport and repeating questions back and, generally being friendly and getting clarity on the things that they say that are slightly vague, like I want a good communicator. What the hell does that mean? Give me some more details, right? All that stuff that you've gotten good at, you're going to use all that here too. Selling real estate ain't no different. It's just houses. Make sense? At the end of the day, it's relationship building. Okay. The next thing I did is I made sure that all of her questions were answered. Okay. I repeated back a number of words that she used in the presentation or in the conversation. And then I asked for the business. Okay. You ready to get started? And out comes the objections, if there are any. Okay. Objections, by the way, are a sign that they're considering working with you. Okay. If they sign the paperwork, clearly you don't have to say, well, let me defend my commission, just so we're clear, right? You don't have to do that. They've already agreed to work with you. If they're like, no, Bill, you're, thanks for coming over. Have a great day. No questions here. That's probably a sign they're not all that interested, right? And if they say, well, we're what about that commission? What they're saying is, I think I like you. I just want to talk this one thing through first. Does that make sense? So don't consider an objection to be a sign that you botched it. It's just something that's still a bit unclear in their mind. Make sense? Okay. So what did we learn today? Give me some ahas. What did you learn today? What did you hear that you weren't expecting to hear? Walk me through what's on your mind right now.
For me, it's be observant, be a good listener.
Don't talk about yourself.
Yeah, a lot of psychology behind it all, for sure.
And Michael, when you say that, now you and everyone says, oh my gosh, this business is a lot about psychology. What do you do now?
Learn more about psychology.
Right. I'm listening to this guy. Have you guys heard of Daniel Pink? Does that name sound familiar? He's an author. He writes on persuasion, and he's teaching the master class that I signed up for on persuasion. And it's so brilliant. I mean, there's just so much good stuff in there. That's what I'm talking about. Is you've now decided you want to be a real estate agent. Okay, so prove to me that you're serious about it, right? If I were to follow you around all day, would I know you're a real estate agent? Right? When it's time to like read or learn, or do you make time to read or learn? Are you learning about things that are going to make you a better agent, right? A better advisor, a better communicator, a better listener. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, beautiful. One more thought, and then we'll call it a day.
I have a question too.
Yeah.
So I didn't see you didn't put any of your personal stats, the office stats, Keller Williams.
That's all in the pre-listing.
International stats.
That's all in the pre-listing.
Okay. Okay. Can you tell me where we can find our office stats? Where's the best place to get the stats for,
There are a couple of stats that we use. Let me make a note to post those today.
If you could just post it, that would be helpful.
Yep, I'd be happy.
Well, and if they change regularly, if you could just tell us where to find them.
Yeah, there's like two main ways that like there's stats on our office's performance year over year, and then there are stats our office versus the greater market. I find that the second one is more applicable to what you're suggesting. I just need to find it, and I'll make it easy for you guys.
Yeah, I have my pre-listing presentation package done. I just don't have any stats to put in it, and I've been trying to find them. So,
well, the most important stats, in my opinion, are things like your average list price to sales price ratio and your number of days on the market, right? And what's important is that you compare it to something, right? So if they start talking about commission, you can say, well, did the agent share with you their list price to sales price ratio? Huh? So they didn't tell you the average list price or the average sales price based as a function of their average list price? They didn't share that with you? No. You see what I did? I created curiosity. I created doubt. What I'm saying without saying it is, gosh, if their numbers were impressive, don't you think they would have shared it with you? Does that make sense?
and so those numbers are somewhere where we can access them on a regular basis to update our pre-listing package.
So Lee posts
until we get our own.
We have an internal doc that Lee updates. I just need to let me make sure it's updated, and I'll share the data.
Okay, thanks.
Any other ahas?
I just want to ask if you can put the name of that author you were speaking about.
Yeah, Daniel Pink.
Pink?
P-I-N-K.
Oh, okay, cool. Because yeah, that's a big aha for me. I mean, I knew that selling real estate was all about the relationship and how you can not convince or manipulate, but like show them that what you're trying to do is in their best interest. I think a lot of that has to do with just the words that you use to talk to their subconscious without them even realizing. like you said, we.
You know, I don't want people to think that I'm like suggesting that you manipulate, right? But there are certain ways that you can move the process along more successfully and give them what they want, right? And I'm going into the meeting, quite honestly, saying to myself, if they do this with me, they're going to have a better experience and better results than if they do it with somebody else, right? And that's where I'm coming from. So I'm only doing that because they told me they have these goals that are important to them. Make sense?
I think a lot of that has to do with being prepared and having confidence in yourself and treating it like a business, because you wouldn't be able to go to somebody unless you actually were, gonna give them the best experience that that they could get. So
Yeah, 100%. So the question is how are you taking intentionality around becoming prepared, right? So you might say to yourself, hey, the only way I'm ever going to get paid by helping people buy and sell real estate is to have contracts in place, right? And interestingly enough, I don't know anything about contracts. So do you think it's easier to learn about contracts when you don't have somebody breathing over your shoulder saying, hey, send it over, send it over, send it over? Or is it easier to learn contracts when you do have somebody breathing down your neck? Hey, we got an 8 o'clock deadline. Honey, it's time for dinner, right? And you're a mess. Make sense? So say to yourself, do I know how to use the tools? What am I going to do today to get better at using the tools, right? Do I know, I think I'm going to have a listing coming up in August in Pope High School District, right? And it's probably going to be around $500,000. You got a choice. Are you going to wing it? Or are you going to are you going to take intentionality around learning that budget and that price range in that particular area? So when they say, oh yeah, the Smiths around the corner sold their home. So yeah, they had an awesome basement, didn't they? See what I'm saying? All right, it's a business, guys. If you treat it like a hobby, you'll get paid like it's a hobby if you're lucky. If you treat it like a business, oh my gosh, you're gonna have the best life ever. All right, one more thought. Nadine, you have been on this call for an hour and a half, and I haven't heard a word from you. Tell me something.
I'm multitasking.
Have you learned anything today?
Oh, yes, definitely. Definitely. Definitely my takeaway basically is to try and just be more attentive in listening to what their needs are and see how I can best help them, and just reinforce or just ask them back the same question just to make sure I'm fully understanding what their expectations are.
Exactly. Great job, you guys. I appreciate you hanging out with me a little extra time today. It's the last week of the second quarter. Let's finish strong, okay? For those that haven't posted the numbers, please do so. Have an awesome day.
Thanks, Bill.